Hello, dear book nerds. It's Amber here at the top of our show to give the world's biggest thank you to Julie and Katie, aka one of the best sisters a girl could ask for, our two amazing subscribers on Patreon. I sincerely can't keep this show going without the support of listeners like you, as this show takes a great deal of time and effort for me to put together every week. So if you enjoy what I do and would have the financial means to do so, I truly hope you'll consider heading on over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/bndpod and becoming a patron for as low as $2 a month to start getting perks like ad-free episodes a day before anyone else, bonus shows like the Book Nerd Hall of Fame and Storytime, and behind-the-scenes content, not to mention getting your very own shout-out at the top of each episode. Again, that's patreon.com/bndpod. We hope to see you there! Are you looking to create your first podcast like I have, but don't know where to start? Then I would like to introduce you to an amazing tool called Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's a completely free service that offers creation tools to let you record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, then distributes your podcast so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. What's more, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place, so what are you waiting for? Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Page 6, September 4th, 2020. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Book Nerd Diaries, the bite-sized, bi-weekly audio journeys of a bookworm through an endless to-read list. My name is Amber. And of course, I am that bookworm. Before I get into today's book, I just wanted to say, once again, thank you all so much for helping our show pass 140 plays so far, and making our most recent episode our second most played yet. You guys are all legends. We're now gunning for 200 plays, so we hope you'll keep listening, rating, and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts, as well as sharing our show with the podcast and book lovers in your life, as those are the best ways to help us reach more ears. Also, we're thrilled to announce that we just recently launched our very own Ko-fi page. For those who wish to help support us financially, but aren't able to commit to the monthly payments of our Patreon, we invite you to head on over to ko-fi.com/bndpod. Again, that's ko-fi.com/bndpod. And for a small donation, you can send us a shout out for a special someone, tell us your good news, or say whatever, and we'll make sure your messages are read out for everyone to hear during our next episode. We hope to see you there, folks. Now, without further ado, let's get our book nerd on, shall we? The book that I am thrilled to talk to you about this week is the ever-so-charming Arthurian adventure, The Buried Giant, by Kazuo Ishiguro. Please forgive me if I mispronounce any of this. This book follows the story of a loving, dedicated couple named Axel and Beatrice as they trek across England in a journey to solve the mystery behind the magical fog that has descended over the country and wiped away everyone's memories. This book ultimately found its way to me via my regular hunt for new reading material. While browsing the ebook library on the Overdrive app, which is where I typically find most of my books these days, The Buried Giant was one of the available books on the list that, while I'd never heard of it before, instantly caught my attention for its simple yet lovely premise alone. I also deeply enjoyed Kazuo Ishiguro's beautiful novel, The Remains of the Day, which I had previously read a number of years ago and only recommended me to this book even more. While I am far from any kind of scholar on the mythos of King Arthur, it's such a cornerstone of fantasy and media as a whole that basically everyone grows up knowing the stories of the legendary ruler and his loyal knights of the Round Table, and I was deeply excited to read an adventure filled with knights, dragons, and all of the warm and fuzzy tropes I grew up with. The thing that subverted my expectations for this book, however, was the unique way in which the story handles this mythology that is so deeply loved. Set a few decades after the timeline of the original stories, the adventures of Arthur and his knights echo throughout the book, inspiring the story's events through the legacy of what they left behind. I would highly recommend this book to the people who, like me, have grown up enjoying the King Arthur mythos in all of its retellings in media throughout the years, from Disney's animated classic The Sword and the Stone, to the iconic movie Monty Python and the Holy Grail, to the beloved BBC series Merlin, and even its feature in Season 5 of the series Once Upon a Time, among many of its countless others. For those of you who read this book and would like some more fantasy-flavored fun in your life, I would deeply recommend checking out the wonderful self-described hope punk anthology series, Flyest Fables, as well as the super fun dimension-hopping drama, The Once and Future Nerd, both of which I will link in the show notes. I promise you won't regret it. Now that our recommendations and everything are out of the way, let's get back to our discussion of The Buried Giant, with a little segment called The Highlight Reel, where I give my quick spoiler-free list of the 3 aspects of the book which stood out to me most. Those 3 highlights, in no particular order, are: Number 1, Axel and Beatrice, are 2 main protagonists of the book, and arguably one of the healthiest, most wholesome examples of a fictional couple I have ever read. Instead of the explosive will-they-won't-they romances that typically dominate the media, Axel and Beatrice are a couple whose marriage has already spanned decades, and has not dimmed their utter devotion to each other in the slightest. Theirs is a relationship based not solely on physical attraction or convenience, but rather deep respect and the unwavering faith that they will be there for each other no matter what. It's super refreshing in a way I deeply appreciate, and I loved every second of reading it. Highlight number 2, the setting. The world that Axel and Beatrice inhabit is one that can only be described as if Wes Anderson was asked to direct a high fantasy movie. The village in which our protagonists live is a sprawling underground warren dug into a hill, a la The Hobbit, and from there they venture across an England brimming with magic and filled with creatures such as dragons and ogres. Granted, the dragons and ogres are incredibly terrifying, but beyond that, the whole setting is utterly charming beyond belief, and if it were possible, I would love to visit it. Number 3, morality. If there were any major theme to Arthurian lore, morality would definitely have to be it. What truly makes someone a hero? What makes someone a villain? Where does the boundary lie between the two? How do you separate personal morals from duty to the greater good? These questions and more are all over this book, as, over the course of the story, nearly everyone's true loyalties end up coming into question at one point or another, and I think that these eternal, ever-so-human quandaries are handled in stunning fashion. Ultimately, pure evil and pure good don't exist, just human beings doing their best with the choices they're given. That concludes our main book discussion for today, but please stay tuned for more Book Nerd Diaries after this quick break. And we're back, book nerds. Hello again. With that, let's get back to the show. Now that we're on the other side of the break, it's now time for that ultra-nerdy part of our podcast, the Trivia Corner, where I give you all a trivia question related to today's book. As The Buried Giant delves into the Arthurian legend, my question today has to do with the legendary ruler himself, King Arthur. Your question today is, what is the name of the island that King Arthur's body is taken to after his death? Was it A, Avalon, B, Avonlea, or C, Everley? The answer is A, Avalon. After King Arthur is mortally wounded in a showdown with his son Mordred for the crown of England, his body is sailed to the island of Avalon to rest forevermore, a place that archaeologists and historians have been seeking out ever since, in a mission to find just how much of King Arthur's legend is actually true. My source for this answer was Ancient History Encyclopedia. Link will be in the show notes. We've almost reached the end of another episode, dear listeners, but before I go, I would like to leave you with this week's listener question. Your question for this episode is, what is your favorite literary genre? As you may have gathered already, mine will always be fantasy, but what's yours? Do you like a good mystery, or would sci-fi or horror be your thing? Please let me know via any of the social media accounts that I'm about to name in the credits, or find the links in the show notes for this episode, and I'll read your answers during the next episode. That's all for this episode, everyone, but we'll see you again soon in 2 weeks for another entry in the Book Nerd Diaries. Until then, take care, book nerds, and keep on reading. The Book Nerd Diaries and its associated shows are written, edited, researched, and hosted by me, Amber Wilchin. Thank you to Kevin MacLeod for the use of our theme song, The Show Must Be Go, and Sincerely Media on Unsplash via Anchor for our wonderful cover art. But most of all, I'm truly grateful to you all out there for listening. If you'd like to connect with us online, you can follow us on Instagram or Twitter at BNDpod, Facebook at Book Nerd Diaries, or email us at bndpod@gmail.com. Again, that's bndpod@gmail.com. Any comments, questions, or book suggestions you may have to send my way are always welcome. Until next time, everyone, please take care of each other, and don't forget to support your local library.